Hey everyone, welcome to Magnetic and Messy, the podcast where we embrace the highs, the lows, and the absolute chaos of figuring shit out in life to step into our most authentic magnetic selves. I'm Jazzy Luchini, your host and an entrepreneur, coach, spiritual baddie, and your go-to hype girl for all things business, self-growth, and just life in your 20s. This podcast is for the ones who crave an authentic life. We'll be talking all the real raw moments in life because it's both magnetic and messy, and we're here to own it. New episodes drop when I feel like it, but hopefully bi-weekly. So make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Oh, and just a heads up, this show is unfiltered, full of spicy takes, and not always PG. So if that's not your vibe, you've been warned. Now, grab your coffee, wine, or whatever fuels your soul, and let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Magnetic and Messy. So, in today's episode, we are diving into a topic that literally changed my entire approach to business, to confidence, to just showing up in my life in general, and that's the topic of self-concept. So, if you're feeling stuck in a comparison trap, maybe you're doubting your abilities, struggling with imposter syndrome, or struggling to feel like the kind of person who gets what they want, this episode's definitely going to shift that energy super, super quickly. And working on your self-concept is also something that just makes you feel so good and so confident in yourself just in general. And it also helps bring in the desires that you want quicker. So why wouldn't you want to work on it? When I started working on my self-concept, my life started getting easier. Things were easier, people were nicer. I started getting my desires and manifestations quicker, and things in general just kind of started going my way more. So, if you want the dream life, but you still kind of feel unworthy of it, working on your self-concept is going to change that for the better. So, before we dive into working on your self-concept, let's talk about what self-concept is, right? What's this definition of a self-concept? The simple definition is basically just the way you see yourself, your identity, your beliefs, and your inner narrative, but not just how you see yourself, how you perceive the world, how you perceive, how life interacts with you. Do you think life is easy? Do you think that things are always working for you, or do you think the world is like working against you? That's part of it as well. So, some examples of poor self-concept, I would say, is things like maybe saying you're bad with money, right? That's a scarcity mindset. This blocks growth and abundance. You have this perception that you are not good with finances. You have a hard time making money. You struggle with abundance. Another example would be maybe you're not cut out to be a leader. This is something that keeps you playing small in your business. It really downplays your confidence, your successes. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you maybe, even if you're not a business owner, maybe stuck in, the narrative that someone else is going to get a promotion over you at work, right? Or someone else is going to get the raise over you. You're not good enough to get a raise. You're not good enough to delegate to other people. You're always going to be at the bottom of the ladder. So, an example of, say, quote unquote, good self-concept is I always figure things out, right? This was a game-changing, like, kind of blanket statement for me that helped me really build my confidence. That was just like, I always figure things out. Things always work out for me. Things always get solved. I can figure out any problem. I can figure out how to bring in anything I want into my life. I'm going to use the example of business throughout this podcast episode just because it gets too confusing if I try to incorporate a bunch of different examples. So we're just going to stick to business. But if, you're not working on a business, or you don't have a business, or you want to work on something else in your self-concept, you can work on any aspect of your self-concept. It doesn't just have to be like specifically in business or something like that. You can adjust all of these tips and examples to fit what you want to work on. So, for the sake, again, for this podcast, we're just going to use the example of business. So, one thing is, do you see yourself as the kind of person who's capable of running a successful business? Do you believe that people want to pay you, want to hear you out, want to collaborate with you? Do you feel good enough to charge for your skills and your expertise? Do you feel like the person that people would be lucky to work with? Do you believe that you're capable of handling the pressure that comes with leveling up, right? All of these things are really important to kind of evaluate to see where your self-concept lands and kind of where your starting point is. Don't worry if you feel like maybe you don't have a self-concept that's as great as you want it to be. This is very, very normal. We kind of start with the self-concept that we're given based on our experiences, our circumstances, our beliefs that we acquire from everyone else, our family, growing up, social media, friends, all these different things. So maybe your self-concept was kind of dimmed because of these things that you've taken on. And this is where the work comes in. You can level up your self-concept at any point in time. So just think what you believe about yourself becomes your baseline, right? You just want like a decent baseline for your self concept to work with. And getting it higher and higher will make everything in life so much easier. If you keep hitting glass ceilings in life, in business, whatever, this is where the work starts. So, why does self concept matter, right? You're not going to show up like a CEO if you still think of yourself as an entry level position, as an intern, right? If you don't see yourself as the kind of person who gets paid well, attracts dream clients or dream collaborators, or speaks with authority, is seen as a leader, can handle big opportunities, right? Then even if those opportunities do show up for you, you may end up self-sabotaging them. So that's why it's really important. Like, not only will your self-concept help you bring in those opportunities, bring in the things that you want, bring in those desires a lot easier, but it'll also help you maintain those. If you see yourself as worthy, and of course I deserve these clients, of course I deserve, this raise, then it's like a no-brainer. But if you don't see it like that, you're gonna end up self-sabotaging yourself. So just think of it like this. People treat you the way you expect to be treated. So if you expect to be treated well, if you expect to be treated like a leader, you're going to show up like that and they're going to feel that energy and they're going to treat you like that. If you expect that people aren't going to think you're deserving of a promotion or aren't going to see you as someone who is going to do well in their business, then that's how they're going to treat you, right? If you expect them to treat you that way, they're going to feel that energy and they're probably going to end up treating you that way. Clients, money, visibility, they all respond to your energy and your certainty. That's really huge. Your confidence and your certainty in who you are and the things that you want and the things that you're capable of. If you show up absolutely certain, not just consciously, but subconsciously as well, that's something that you have to work on. If you show up with that certainty, people are going to believe you no matter what. And just remember that confidence isn't about having all the answers. It's about owning who you are. It's about standing in that power, that authenticity that you give off, right? You don't have to know every single thing about everything. No one does, no matter how much they claim they do. Where even if you're a teacher, you should still be a student. We're always still learning. But it's about standing in who you are authentically and being certain, knowing that you deserve the things that you want. So, like I mentioned, deservingness, worthiness, these are so important. You cannot receive what you secretly think you're not allowed to have. This is huge. You have to feel worthy of receiving the things that you want, of receiving your desires. Otherwise, you put it above you and it separates you, right? It really separates you from the things that you want and it makes it feel like you aren't good enough. Like this thing is too good for you and you have to strive and struggle and hustle to get to it. But that's not the truth, right? You have to put yourself on the same level. You cannot separate yourself and the things that you want. You have to feel that worthiness. Like, of course, I deserve to have a successful business. Of course, these clients want to work with me because I'm so great at what I do. I used to try to manifest my desires out of lack and desperation, right? Like I said, feeling separate from my desires and like I needed them to make me feel a certain way, right? I felt unworthy, unhappy, unfulfilled until I got that desire. Like I needed the money to feel freedom, to feel peace. I needed the clients to feel successful and confident and good enough as a business owner. Since working on my self-concept, I feel worthy of all my desires. Like, duh, I'm gonna get them because why wouldn't I? I just kind of assume that feeling of like, obviously, I'm gonna get them. I assume and I become the version of me that has them first, then I get the desire. And yes, that sounds super backwards, but we are kind of taught and conditioned to wait until we get something external or material to feel the feeling it's going to give us. But if you feel the feeling first, which I've talked about before, you start to kind of shift things. If you step into that version of yourself that feels the confidence, that feels the success, that feels the freedom, that feels the abundance first, you start to attract that towards you. And at this point, then there's no acting out of lack because you know that you're worthy, right? You know that it's already yours and everything around you is just catching up. You just have to assume, like, it's mine. I feel abundant because I know the money is mine, even if it's not in my bank account yet, even if the client hasn't come in yet. I know it's mine because I'm feeling the feeling, and things are going to start to shift around me to bring in those opportunities. It puts you in a position of power. Like, obviously, I get everything I want because I'm so amazing, I'm so good at my job, I'm so deserving, and I just get everything I want because everything I want wants me more. And people would be lucky to work with me, people would be lucky to hire me. You have to have this kind of mentality that people are lucky to work with you, that your desires are lucky that you desire them in the first place, right? This is so, so, so important. And just know there's nothing you have to do to be deserving or worthy of anything. Just by existing, you are inherently worthy of everything that you want. There is no amount of work or anything you have to do to deserve something that you want, right? Like, let's just get that out of the way. So, let's talk about how to actually shift your self-concept, how to level up that self-concept to start feeling more confident, right? These are some daily tools and rituals that helped me. And I just want to preface this by saying that there is no one right way to do something to level up your self-concept. To do really anything that has to do with bettering yourself, you could try all the things that work for me and maybe none of them work for you, right? So just take everything with a grain of salt. I always say, like, try something, give it a chance, be consistent with it for a little bit. And if it's not for you, it's not for you, and move on to the next thing until you find something that works for you, or maybe tweak it a little bit so it works for you. Again, there's no one right way to do something. So the first thing that's really, really helped my self-concept is affirmations. I've talked about this before, and I don't just mean like saying affirmations for 5 minutes in the morning and then, talking down to myself the rest of the day. I mean, like, loading the affirmations on myself, like all day long. If I have a negative thought about myself, like I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I catch that and I go, no, no, I'm not. That's the old me talking. I'm actually really confident. I'm really great at my job. My clients love working with me. I'm really good at what I do. I get great results, and I really, really load them on myself. So my subconscious has no choice but to be like, yeah, you're right. Why did I say you were an idiot? And not just, again, not just like that. Like, you can say, like, I'm worthy, I'm loved, I'm confident, I'm successful. Anything that where you feel like there's a lack in your life, if you uncover things about yourself, maybe you feel unworthy, maybe you have gone through things in your childhood that made you not feel loved, maybe people have bullied you or talked down to you and you don't feel confident, maybe, you've struggled with jobs before you got fired from your last job or something, you don't feel successful, right? Those are the affirmations that you're going to want to use, right? You need to uncover the areas that are lacking the good self-concept and write affirmations to contradict those old thoughts and feelings that don't serve you anymore. Some other great examples, some great blanket statements that have really actually changed my life in very small ways, but all the time. Like, like little things like, oh, I get closer parking spots. Or, for example, like I went to the doctor's the other week and I didn't have to pay a copay for some reason. And the visit was very quick. And I always hit all the green lights on the way home now. And my garage door was like low-key broken for the last like 6 months. And then when I started using these statements after a couple of weeks, it just isn't anymore. Like, weird things like that. But these blanket statements have really changed because they can kind of correlate with like anything in your life, any aspect of your life. So I say, like, I get everything I want. Everything is easy for me. My problems solve themselves. Everything is always working in my favor. And it just kind of puts you in a different state where you start looking for the positives. You start realizing that life isn't against you, that things do work out for you, and then things will shift and things will all of a sudden start working out for you and things will be easier for you. So I like to incorporate both, where I'm like self-concept about me specifically and the things I'm struggling with, but also the self-concept that's like how life is treating me, right? How I feel like the world is working for me, not against me. Another thing, and I wouldn't say this is necessarily like a tool or a ritual. This is something that you should be doing all the time anyway, but it's your mental diet. Having a really good mental diet, which means basically just catching the old stories, the old negative stories that you're telling yourself and choosing new ones, catching them in the moment, becoming conscious of them and being like, no, that doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to stick with the new story, right? Anything that goes against your new story, your new identity, the new version of yourself, you flip them, you focus on that new story and what aligns with your new identity, the version of yourself that you want to be, the confident, loved, worthy, deserving version. Every time that you catch a negative thought and not spiral, and you turn it into a positive one, you create a new neural pathway in your brain. So this is very much supported by neuroscience, just like pretty much everything I talk about is. It's all supported by quantum physics or neuroscience, some sort of science backing, but every time you catch a thought pattern that your brain is so used to and you flip it into something new, you're creating that new neural pathway. So it may feel strenuous at first if you have a lot of, negative stories running in the back of your mind and you're starting to become conscious of them, but just know that every time you flip it, your brain, it's basically like doing a rep when you're working out, when you're lifting weights, right? Every time you're doing a rep, no work is wasted. It gets easier over time. Just know not to play into the old stories, right? Only entertain what aligns with what you do want. Everything else needs to be let go. And yes, feel your feelings. You're allowed to feel your feelings, and you should feel your feelings because you don't want to suppress that. But feel them, find a way to release them and let them go because these old stories are not helpful. And holding on to them and replaying them just creates more of that in your reality and in your brain, right? So you saying you're not confident, you're not worthy, you're not good with money, stop telling yourself that because you're just creating more of that experience in your life. It does not serve you. What's the worst that can happen if you flip that and say, I am really good with money. I am successful. I am worthy. I am loved. I am confident, right? What's the worst that could happen? The third thing is something I talked about in episode 5, which is visualization. So embodying your future self now, right? What I like to do is for those that can visualize, I know not everyone's capable of visualizing, and that's okay. That's why I recommend like affirmations are great for those of you that can't visualize, but visualization can be really helpful because I like to go into visualizations, whether they're short or long, and I really observe myself in those visualizations, right? How does that version of me that has their dream life move, think, act? What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Are they confident, happy, loving, caring, etc.? Observe that in your visualizations. Carry that in your day-to-day life when you come out of those visualizations as best you can. Right? Train your subconscious through basically method acting that version of you that you see in your visualizations until you aren't acting anymore. That is the version of you underneath the layers. And you're just training yourself to become that version of you, to become confident, right? And that eventually turns you into just waking up one day and actually being confident and not having to consciously think about it. And this has helped me so much because I think, like, oh, the version of me that has my dream life, she's laughing all the time. She doesn't care what people think. She doesn't have anxiety walking around the grocery store, right? And so I really practiced that, even though it's super uncomfortable, until I woke up one day and, all those things were true. I didn't have anxiety walking around a grocery store anymore. I am laughing all the time. I am super happy all the time. And the last thing is just decide and declare, right? This is the energy of this is just who I am now. This is my life now. That's basically an affirmation. Keep telling yourself this when doubts or the old story creep in. Just say, "Oh, that's my old self talking." That's what I always do when doubts creep in or the old story tries to push its way back in. I go, "That's just the old me talking, but the new me doesn't do that. This is who I am now. This is the version of me that has everything I want and I'm sticking to it." And this works better for maybe things in your self-concept that you don't have that much resistance towards. If you have a little bit of more of a deeper negative story or narrative around those things, the decide and declare might not be the best tactic for it. You might have to do a little bit more saturation, but this could be great to just remind yourself, like, this is just who I am now. I am confident. That's it. So, kind of a tip that you can start with, I know that was a lot. You just start with like making a list of, I am the kind of person who blank, right? Fill in the blank. Those statements are so important to just kind of map out. Like, I'm the kind of person who gets everything she wants. I'm the kind of person who clients would dream to work with. and just repeat those daily. Those are your affirmations. Start with that. And just remember, like this is the long game. Your self-concept is the long game because you're the long game, right? Like you're here for the long run. Your self-concept is part of you. So just know that self-concept work compounds. If you assume things can change instantly, they absolutely can. But like I mentioned, sometimes we have more resistance to certain desires, thoughts, or belief systems that may take a little bit more time to work out of subconsciously. Your brain may be clinging onto those a little bit. So, like, if you've never felt abundant or rich and always felt like money was hard to make, you may have more resistance to the belief that you are abundant and money's easy to make and you do get money quickly and easily. Even if you don't see results or changes externally right away, just know that no work on yourself is ever wasted. Every affirmation, visualization, flipped thought is not wasted. Okay. Even if it feels so hard, and even if you have bad days, because you will have bad days, just know that the work that you have done is not wasted. It's always compounding in the background. It's important to keep going. You will see internal changes within yourself very, very quickly if you put in the work. And what follows is the external changes. Once you have that internal change, then it's only a matter of time before your external life shifts around you and things do get easier and opportunities do present themselves and people do treat you better, right? But just remember, everything starts internally first. Then it will project out externally. It gets too easy to get caught up with how we're conditioned, which is you wait for something outside of you to happen for you to feel a certain way. We're not reactors, right? We are not reactors, we are creators. The overall goal with self-concept is just to become the version of you who gets the results, not someone who has to hustle and struggle and grind for them. The work on yourself may feel hard at first, depending on your limiting beliefs and your overall self-concept that you're kind of starting this work with, but it makes everything else so much easier in the long run, I promise. So just kind of reframe things like this isn't fake it till you make it. I don't like that term. I always say fake it till you become it, but I've also kind of thinking like you're not really faking anything because you're just coming into the version of you that has already existed. You're just getting used to bringing out that version again. So I would say it's like align until it fully arrives. Keep aligning internally with what you want to be and who you want to be in the life that you want to live and the things that you want to have until that fully shows up internally and externally. Again, keep going. Your subconscious mind will take to your new assumptions about yourself, and you'll see that affect everything in your reality. You'll see it affect the people around you, how they treat you, the opportunities that come to you, etc. So, a quick recap of today's episode. Self-concept work in general is just great to up-level your feelings about yourself and your confidence and not wait for something external to happen to make you feel confident, happy, fulfilled, especially if you have a lot of limiting beliefs about yourself. Your life will be easier. It will seem like things go your way more. Things get easier. You get things quicker and easier, right? It will also just make you feel so much better about yourself and give you a more positive outlook about yourself and about your life in general. So, thank you all for listening to another episode of Magnetic and Messy, and I will see you all next time. All right, and that's a wrap on today's episode of Magnetic and Messy. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I seriously appreciate every single one of you for tuning in, sharing your energy, and being part of this wild journey. If you love this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. If you want to share your positive energy with me directly, DM me over on Instagram @thejazzyva and tell me your biggest takeaway from today's episode. Remember, life can be messy, but no matter what, you are magnetic as hell. See you guys next time.